Welcome to EduAdvice podcast. Today, we are joined by one of India's most recognized finance educator, mentor, entrepreneur, and CEO of Leverage Growth, Mr. Aswini Bajaj, with qualification including CA, CS, CFA, FRM, CAIA, CFP, and several other. He has mentored more than 55,000 students across 100 plus countries, trained professionals and corporates, and delivered lectures at leading institutes including IITs and IIMs. Today, we'll focus on what students and parents really want to, how to make the right career decision, build future ready skills, and navigate an increasingly competitive AI driven world. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
So, my first question to you is, if you were an 18 years old student starting from scratch in 2026, what would be the first three skills you would invest your time in, irrespective of your degree?
So, so I think when I'm looking at, going back to 18 years of age, I feel I would undo a lot of things. But then again, I feel that I've learned something or the other from all of those experiences. So I don't think I'm going to be changing in terms of my career trajectory. But since you're talking about the three skills, I think the few things that I would change is I wish I would have taken up computers in 11 and 12. I wanted to. I had studied Java in class 9 and 10, and in 11 and 12, I had economics. I was a commerce student. But I wish I would have probably, pushed and taken an extra subject, computers, or at least would have studied it myself. Because I think 11 and 12, along with commerce, there's a lot more time that you have available for yourself. So I wish I would have done more of maybe learned coding. And, I don't think we had that great bandwidth that we have with Geo today. So I don't think we had that much availability of YouTube and content online at that time. But I wish I would have studied a little more of coding and all. That is one. Second, during my college, so that is when roughly you're, passing out of school and getting into college. I think during college, I would have loved to network a little more. So again, the kind of exposure we have today with respect to the podcasts that we have available to at our disposal, um, and the even the scale at which the events in colleges are happening, the kind and number of internships that is there, because my college was done in 2012 and we did not have that scale of startups booming at that point of time in India. The startup boom predominantly happened post 2014, 2015 time frame or 2016 time frame. So we did not have that many internship opportunities available as well. So I think I would have been more outgoing in terms of I was participating in all the college events and everything. But I think, being able to talk to a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old and being able to make conversation with absolutely somebody you do not know or you've never met, I think that is something that I wish I would have done if I were 18 today. So one talks about the coding, two talks about, being a little bit of a networker, being comfortable talking to a wider audience, and I think the third thing that I would do, um, I think the tech and this, the third thing, I'm not sure if it is going to be a skill or so, but I think I should have written more. So, writing really helps you declutter your mind. It helps you take the right decisions. It helps you understand where you're productive, where you're not productive. I wish I had a writing habit back then because I know that I did not write at all when I was in college. And it is not about just writing about your feelings, it's about analysis and introspection. I would do my timelines in terms of, that June, this is the exam, May, this is the exam. So my calendar, exam, and the routine with regards to examination was there. But with respect to long-term goals, the skill set I need to acquire, the books I need to read. So those were the things I think I could have, been more productive while I was in college. So I think writing. So I think these were the three things that I wish I would have done or I would do now if I were 18.
So yeah, one thing I understood is you just didn't focus on education, like studying. Like you diversified into multiple domains. That is like networking and then learning technology, because technology is very important now. It's become part and parcel of our life.
Yes.
So, and yeah, lastly, you didn't ignore studying as well, as you mentioned, like
Of
focusing more
course.
on writing. Yeah. So, my next question to you is, you hold an extraordinary number of professional qualifications. Looking back, what was the most important for your success? It was degrees or skills or your direction?
I think all the three are extremely important. It's just that the chronology matters a lot. So you cannot, for example, I'm very good with Excel, but if I do not understand what is finance, how can I make a valuation of a stock? What if I have a lot of depth in finance, but I cannot use Excel? I'm not going to be able to sit down on pen and paper, do all the scenario analysis and everything. So without the skill, I'll not be able to do that. And direction is something that comes with time, in the sense, if I would not have studied CA, for example, I would not have understood that finance is my calling. If I did not started studying finance with CFA, I wouldn't have understood that finance is something that I really thoroughly love. Then I gotten into risk management and all the other areas of finance. And if I did not experiment, with three students at the dining table while I was a college student, in fact, there were two people who were my batchmates, and one person was my senior when I took the first class of CFA level one at my home. If I had not done that experiment or that trial run, I would not have been able to take up a batch a year later. I took some batches in the next 1.5 years across a couple of institutes and all, and then I full time switched to teaching. If I did not do my job in the MIS budgeting forecasting profile in CAIA in India, I would not have been doing Excel classes or Excel training or MIS and consulting. So the direction that you talked about is going to happen with time. I do believe in what Steve Jobs had mentioned about you can connect the dots only backwards. But for you to be able to connect the dots backwards, you need to do a lot of experimentation. So also there's another concept I'll tell you. There are four kinds of luck. So one could be just dumb luck. You're walking on the street and you find a 500 rupee note, for example, or a lottery ticket lying on the floor. But the second one would be buying lottery tickets regularly. The third, so you're increasing the probability by increasing your attempts. But the third could be maybe you do some data analysis and you figure out that, this is the number combination that generally comes up as a winning ticket, because even the random numbers, sorry, I'll get into the nerdy side of mine on the statistics side. The random numbers are also not 100% random, they are pseudo random numbers. So anybody who understands random number generation, I think you're a computer science student,
Yeah,
you'll be
yeah,
able
yeah,
to appreciate that.
yeah.
So being able to do that kind of data analysis to evaluate which lottery ticket to buy. So that is where you're developing your skills, and also you're not doing dumb iteration, you're doing very calculated iteration. And the fourth one is, something that it builds in the long term, your ethics. So coming back to the point, so how do you get direction? You do iterations, you do calculated iterations, you build credibility and a position for yourself in the industry. So that is the reason why ethics and your reputation matters a lot, especially as you go up. The it's going to get narrower. There are going to be lesser number of people, and then everybody knows everybody, or your reputation is something that you've built over the years. So you carry that. So this is how your direction frames. So for example, what if I do get opportunities coming my way just because of my reputation? So that opportunity might turn my life into a different direction today. So degree is going to be very important in terms of your knowledge base. So if you are able to build that without the degree, well, good for you. But how do you prove it to a client or an employer in order to get to the interview table is my question. And are you going to be that serious in terms of being able to learn and collate that knowledge without an exam coming up? So the degree builds the knowledge base. The skill is about applying that knowledge. And you being open-minded and curious, you know, is going to, and not being lazy. I see people being very lazy at times today, because a lot of times I see that, okay, if I will get this, then I will do this hard work. But people are not willing to put in the hard work as an experimentation, to see whether it works out or it does not work out. Right. So a lot of times that I will not put this much effort because what if I fail? So you need a guarantee of the outcome in order to take the effort. But life does not work that way. So the direction will come as you keep on iterating more and you take more and more efforts.
Yeah, like one thing I understood is you focused on like all are interlinked. Even degree is important.
Yes.
And if degree is important, skills are also important. With that, we need to ensure practical learning as well. If that's not done, then that won't work out. And that's the reason you reached here with the proper direction. And one thing I loved is you mentioned ethical angle. Like very few think because ethical angle is very important for reputation as well. So, my next question to you is, having mentored thousands of students, what are the three biggest mistakes you see students making while planning their careers?
So one is a short-term attitude. So I'll do this because I want this. I'll do it because it is easy. So I'll take up some XYZ short-term certification because that's easier, or there's no passing rate, or there's no qualifying exam. So always looking at short-term and shortcuts. I mean, you can take it as two different mistakes which people make. So short-term is, in the long term, that will not help you. So why take those kind of bets which is not going to be lucrative in the long term? Like your reputation, that is also something that you build and that will impact you in the long term. May not be so much in the short term, but in the long term, the impact could be very, very significant. So you cannot be lazy in terms of taking up short-term decisions, and shortcuts do not work. You you think that, I'll not skill up, or I'll just mug up, or I'll just bare minimum whatever is needed I'll do, and I'll try to pass my exam somehow. That is not going to be taking you that far. So a lot of short term is what people look at in today's time, and I think it has been exacerbated to a certain extent with respect to the kind of apps and all that we've been addicted to, because whatever we want is very immediately available. The instant gratification has just gone too far. You don't even need to plan for groceries tomorrow. You order something right now to get in 10 minutes to cook something. You don't even need to cook something. You order whatever you feel like eating. So there is absolutely no restraint that, I need to do this and I will get the results in the long term, because you're getting everything right now. But that's going to happen with Ola, Ubers, and Swiggy, Zomatos. It's not going to happen with your career. That is where students are particularly falling short of. So the mistakes they make is, one, having a very short-term approach towards things, taking a lot of shortcuts, and falling for that instant gratification, because also the society is getting shaped around us in that manner. For example, there is more misinformation than there is information in today's time, and there's just too much of information. So of course I understand that students find it very difficult to understand what is true and what is untrue, or what is to be believed in and what is not to be believed in, because they're spoiled for choices. So I think these are the mistakes students need to, because if you have a long term approach, you'll be learning today. You'll not be taking things for granted. If you're not looking for shortcuts, again, you're working hard. So all the things will get sorted if your mindset is in the right direction.
Yeah, like this is all because of real culture. I feel like they have such a short attention
Yes.
span of only 15 seconds, and even many students preparing for government exams seeing that 15 seconds reel, and then when jumping into that, they understand how difficult it is and how difficult it is to achieve that. So, many students feel anxious because social media constantly showcase the success stories. What would you say to the students who feel they are already falling behind in the life?
So I'll give you a couple of stats. So I'll just go back to the previous thing you mentioned. Excuse me. So, you talked about social media and about the amount of reels people are seeing, and because of that, the anxiety that is building in. There is a study which has evaluated, based on actual data, that normally with every decade, there are certain number of IQ points that goes up on an average. So on an average, every decade, every 10 years, students or people are on an average getting more intelligent. The last 10 years is the only generation that has actually dumbed down. So if you're looking at, let's say, a 40-50 year period, every 10 years, people, their intelligence level is going up because you have more information, you have more access to information, you have more exposure. But now what is happening is, because social media is built in to make you addictive. There is a Netflix documentary, if you want, you can watch, Social Dilemma. And there's beautiful book called Indistractable by Neer Eyal. So Neer had written a book on Hooked, that is about, for people who are building apps, how to make your app more addictive. And he has written the anecdote to that, wherein the antidote to that, and he talks about, how to de-addict, how to not be distracted, indistractable, how to not get hooked. So basically, he's put that book together as well. In fact, there's another one by Cal Newport. See, though he's the author of Deep Work. So he's written another one on, I'm forgetting the name of the book, but it's about reducing the uh, uh, Cal Newport's deep work, slow productivity, digital minimalism. So he's written the book. Cal Newport has written this book, Digital Minimalism, that you might want to pick up. So it's very important to understand how the business model works, because the more amount of time you spend on social media, the more amount of advertisements you see. The more amount of advertisements you see, the more amount of money the social media company makes. That is one. Second, so how do you make it addictive? So it's very clearly given in terms of feeding that kind of dopamine hits to your brain, which is going to be very quick, 15-second reels and 30-second reels and all of that. And in order to get you that excited, that is one. Second, also what happens is when the influencers who are putting in content, they look at something called clickbait. What do you mean by clickbait? That if you, I'm throwing a bait to you like a fish in order to hook you. That is a clickbait. So I'm gonna uh, create the thumbnail or the the headline in such a way that you're bound to, out of curiosity, click on it. And I've baited you and wasted your time. I'll ask you a question. You mentioned about the UPSC candidates and preparing online and everything. There are a lot of people who feel that they're really educating themselves through YouTube, etc. I do not deny that YouTube and different platforms can be very useful for somebody to learn. But out of the reels and shots and everything that you have been seeing, can you tell me what is the area in which you have gained expertise in the last 30 days through social media content? Most people will not be able to answer questions. They've just been kind of consuming content without direction. So when you use YouTube and everything, you need to understand that I also use YouTube, etc., different channels in order to learn something that I'm, for example, a few days back, I was going through a video called bullet journaling. So there's something, a different way of journaling where, and I was just curious and I wanted to understand because I need to improve the way I write. So you have to be very conscious that, okay, in quarter two, let's say July, August, September, this is the area I need to improve about myself. This is what I need to learn. Consciously, I'm going to be spending this time, be it YouTube, be it any course, be it anything at all, and I'm going to be learning, not through reels or shots, through proper guided, proper sessions. I'm going to be gaining expertise in this area and I will become good at it and I will not have to revisit this. So that becomes very important. One, understanding the social media's um, business model, understanding the influencers' business model, because they will promote and say anything and everything for which they're being paid for. There have been influencers who've promoted crypto platforms that have gone bust with 200, 250 crores or so being lost by students. And they have been paid lakhs of rupees to post those stories. So you have cricketers posting about, MS Dhoni posts about Rummy Khelo 8 crore jeeto. So do you think he's going to be asking his daughter to start gambling online? Do you think that's what he's going to be
No,
teaching his own child? Of
no.
course not. But that's what he promotes for, for money. And then he tries to put up a PR image through the army officer's uniform. So if you look at the kind of things people are promoting, so you need to understand how this works. So I'll give you a simple thumb rule. Anybody who pushes me into bad habits, anybody who's promoting, and bad habits includes these online gaming platforms and all, not just the gutka selling Akshay Kumars or whatsoever. This guy will get up at 4 o'clock and work out, but he's selling you and asking you to have gutka. Do you seriously believe these kind of people? They're sellouts. And he used to say that I will not sell, I will not do gutka nonsense and all on screen, but you pay him a little extra pennies and this guy will come dancing towards you. That's what these people have proven through their own track record. So the first thing is anybody who's promoting anything bad, bad habits, bad ethics, bad culture, I will unfollow them and I'll not listen to them. Anybody who's going to be asking me to splurge money, I will not do that. I will not follow those people. Anybody who's going to be promoting shortcuts, who's going to be giving me bad values, or I'm going to be absolutely unfollowing them because I do not know. Even if they are saying one or two good things here and there, I cannot trust them. Like for example, you do not have enough money, or I do not have enough money to tell Warren Buffett sir that ye trading platform promote kariye. So I get at times promote this trading platform, that XYZ platform. 93% plus people lose money on trading. Everybody is not a trader. So I cannot promote that. And the moment I get money to say something, my words have no value. My words and my integrity cannot be up for sale. So for students or for anybody who's watching this, simple thumb rule, any of those people promoting these three things, you simply unfollow and do not believe them. You want to entertain yourself, you see somebody dancing, etc., whatever you understand, you do that. But career decisions, finance decisions, productivity, life management, life decisions, this is not what you take from entertainers. Entertainer's job is to entertain. Do not mix the two, because once you do that, you will just come home with ingenuine and pathetic advices.
My next question to you is, sir, AI is changing every profession. Which finance, business, and non-finance careers do you believe will remain highly relevant over next decade?
See, I think you cannot choose one particular career and say that this is going to be relevant and this is not going to be relevant. One very simple uh, thumb rule that you could apply is that, anything that can be very process oriented will eventually get automated. So that is going to be a challenge over there. I think anybody who's anybody and everybody should be scared about it. So I very often quote this: AI will replace you if your eye is A. AI will replace you if your intelligence is artificial. So you need to be able to apply common sense. Say, for example, I'm using Claude to generate a financial model, but how do I trust that model is accurate? Or does it need more prompting? Or does it need to be corrected? Or does it need to be, how do you prompt to get the model that you want? In order to do that, you need to have a lot of depth in finance. You need to understand how that particular industry, business, company is from a very common sense point of view, from a ground reality point of view. You cannot evaluate a Blinkit like a grocery store. It is more of a tech driven company than a grocery company, if you were to say so. Right. So it's very important to understand things very holistically also in terms of interrelationships, given that AI is there. So a lot of things will get faster. So understanding interconnections becomes important. Uh, if you ask me specifically about rules, for example, one needs to be very broad-minded today. Uh, in finance domain as well, I was discussing this in my classroom the other day. We were talking about a product role in finance. For example, there's a mutual fund company and they want to launch a new fund. Now, mutual fund company is going to be earning money if there is a lot of AUM, a lot of asset under management, a lot of investments that are drawn into that fund, because they get a percentage of that fund to run the mutual fund, right? Now, you have to understand what kind of a product or a investment does the market want. So you will see advertisements: secure your child's education, plan your child's education. When they turn 18, you'll get X amount of money. So what is the demand in the market? What kind of investment people want to make? Will you be able to market it? So consumer, then marketability. Then you also have to understand the finance side of it, because with that theme, with that, say, for example, a 18-year time horizon where there's so much uncertainty in the economy and the markets today, what kind of return will your fund manager be able to deliver if I launch an 18-year product, such long-term horizon, and this is a level of risk I can take? So is it financially feasible to deliver that product? Then to get your sales team to make sure that they start rolling it out to the market. So a product role in a AMC space gives such a holistic view. But there are people who do not look at these kind of roles. UI UX in a fintech company. Now it's a fintech company. How does a workflow happen? What is a user experience, etc.? All of those things needs to be looked into. Uh, Founder's office role. There are people who do not want to have so much of responsibility. They do not want so much of communication, and they do not want to take a lot of pressure. Because in a founder's office role, you are in the middle of everything, literally dealing with all the head of departments, dealing with anything and everything. And your job is to make sure things are getting taken care of and the founder is not bothered, so that he can focus on certain specific areas of the business. But there are people who do not want to do that, or there are people who are not open-minded enough to have that kind of a generalist, holistic view. Uh, I'll give you another example. So again, my examples come from the world of finance, but say suppose in HR. Now, when you're hiring a fund manager, how to evaluate whether the fund manager has been generating good returns, alpha returns or not? Say, for example, last 5 years, economy was very good, but the fund manager actually is very bad. And just because 5 years were good and you end up hiring a wrong guy, the HR job is not done. or the markets were very bad, but this guy was very, very good. How do you identify? How do you analyze performance numbers and recruit the right person for the right job? So even in HR's role, because normally what we see is there is these comedy shows mocking the HR's role, but once you start running your own business, your own work, you start evaluating as to what are the different nuances that an HR for an HR that is needed, especially when you're looking at HR ops. How does the calculation of your bonus work out? How do you see a particular employee's or team member's output is measured, translates into the PL balance sheet, MIS of the company, as well as to in terms with respect to his bonus. And now you, if you are being able to do this job, you need to know every single person's job in the entire company. Because for everybody, you got to do this. And what if you're doing it in a finance company? Because then the product or the business is very hardcore finance, a fintech, wealth tech, etc., fund management, brokerage house. They have hedge fund. How do you get recruitment done, bonus, etc., structures done, taking into consideration the risk controls? Because you cannot incentivize people to take more risk and then things go berserk. You don't want that. So an HR role in a finance who's able to look at it this way is going to do great. So these are so many things where you can do exceptionally well, but you need to have a holistic view. You need to be curious. So you need to have a very um, how do I put this? So you need to be very open-minded in terms of different roles that come your way. So you cannot be very narrowly working towards something, because yes, there's a lot of automation that's going to happen. So you can widen your responsibilities in today's time.
Yes, sir. Like whatever you mentioned, these all could be happen only when we dynamically evolve and adapt to AI. Like just depending on one won't help. And now AI is no more buzzword. It's becoming part and parcel of our life.
Yes.
Yes. So next question to you is, if every student and parent listening to this podcast could remember only one piece of advice from you, what would you want that message to be?
Very simple. Invest in yourself. As simple as that can be. So, be it knowledge, be it skills, be it the mindset. You know, you need a mindset in order to be courageous enough to experiment, to be confident enough to, experiment on things, widen your perspective. You need to be comfortable in not not expecting the results immediately, but still put in the hard work, to have that curious mindset that I'm going to continuously learn, to build those mental models. So for all of those things, you'll need to invest in yourself.
Yes, sir. Beautifully answered, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in, for sharing such a practical and thought-provoking insights. Today's conversation remembers us that while degrees and qualifications matters, continuous learning, adaptability, and investing in oneself are what truly creates long-term success. We hope students and parents listening today leave with greater clarity and confidence about the road ahead. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure.